John Hott from Northeast Sculpture Gallery Factory. I'm here with Janelle Austin, who's the Executive Director of the George Floyd Global Memorial. Welcome, Janelle. Can you tell us a little bit about George Floyd Square?
It's a space that was deemed sacred by the community, by neighbors, by Indigenous women after George Floyd was lynched here. And it's a space that was held by the community in protest. It's a space where people came to find community, to find liberation, public grief, pilgrimage, and protest. It is a space where people continue to protest in defense of Black lives. I think it is profound that it still exists. We're coming up on the 3rd anniversary, and it is important for people to know that it still stands because the protest still stands. And because we believe that people are more sacred than the memorial itself, it's not just a sacred space because of the names that exist here. It's a sacred space because of the people who engage it.
My name is William Ransom, and I am overwhelmed with gratitude for being included in the social justice billboard project being presented by Northeast Sculpture. The call to participate felt like an honor and an opportunity, but it's also a call to action. I feel a duty and a responsibility to speak up and speak out. It's not just a privilege to have my work up there on the billboard for so many eyes to see. It's an obligation. Now is the time for us to be shouting from the rooftops at the top of our lungs. The chance to be involved so directly at the site where George Floyd was brutally murdered was the answer to a question that I'd been asking myself for weeks. How do I get involved from 1,000 miles away? My first instinct, of course, was to go to my studio, but I was at a loss materially. How could I begin to address the anguish and anger and sadness with my usual material set? I had thought about reaching out to John to see if I could get my hands on some material with some specificity, something that was directly tied to the site, derived from the context there in Minneapolis. But here I was looking at what I had at hand and feeling like none of the materials that I had were up to the task. So I began to spend a lot of time thinking about the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that George Floyd spent with that man, that police officer's knee pressed into his neck. And I was thinking about the visual notation of 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and it struck me how it's the same notation as chapter and verse. And now, I'm not a particularly religious person. I'm not the kind of person who cracks open the Bible looking for answers, but from what I've come to understand about George Floyd, he was a deeply religious person, and I felt pretty sure that Jesus would have something to say here. I discovered that very few books in the Bible even make it all the way to chapter 8, verse 46. But the Gospels of Luke and John both did. And they had something to say to me. And I thought that the words of George Floyd that we all heard on that excruciating video were deserving of their own book. We are now living in the Gospel of George, and we are all writing it together, chapter by chapter and verse by verse.
Hello, my name is Melody Strong, and I'm a local artist here in Minneapolis, North Side specifically. By trade, I'm an illustrator. I have illustrated 9 children's books, and I've completed over 50 murals in the Twin Cities and in Jamaica. Why is the Social Justice Billboard Project important? I feel it's important because it's allowing a platform for Black and Brown artists to express how they're feeling right now, express their views, and having this big, huge platform on a billboard, especially at the site of where George Floyd was murdered. The work I created for the Billboard Project hits very close to home in my heart. I have a son that I take this stuff very seriously. We do everything in our power as mothers to prepare our Black and brown boys as they're growing up for encounters with police or law enforcement. That's my biggest fear, that my son will not make it home because of the hands of a police officer. And it's a legitimate fear because we see it all the time. And it's trauma that we're exposed to over and over and over again. And again, enough is enough. It is. Enough is enough. We need to start holding these people accountable. That's where my heart was. I actually had to take a break a few times from these faces because I'm feeling their anguish in these faces that I painted, and I had to take a break because I was getting very emotional. I never want to feel what these mothers feel. I never want to know what that feels like. 8 minutes and 46 seconds has changed the world. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. George Floyd begged for his life. He begged for his mama. And that was also what inspired my painting. Enough is enough. This is a healing process for us as artists. It's a healing outlet. And it's also a conduit for the community. So supporting a project like the Social Justice Billboard Project at 38th in Chicago is going to allow that to happen. It's going to allow a year worth of expression and voice.
Hello, my name is Peyton Scott Russell. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a career artist, arts educator. I'm the artist that created the George Floyd black and white mural that sits on 38th in Chicago. So I thought this was a great opportunity for me to legitimately establish artwork on a billboard, and also to have a platform to say some things that I want to say based on social justice. And so my contribution and billboard project will be a personal connection to me. And this is my next series of artwork that I would like to explain and embellish and share my experience as a biracial person and the struggles that I grew up with.
One of the things that often is an element of oppression for Black lives in this country is the way in which capitalism moves. Because as Black people, we were brought to this country as capital, as property. And so when we think about the ways in which the pressures to move within this capitalistic system often comes through marketing, to be able to have protest art that holds that space so people don't see this as an opportunity to get people to buy and sell and trade off of the death of Black bodies. Because here in George Floyd Square are the names of hundreds of people who died unjustly. And how do we honor this memory of our dead? How do we honor the memory of the living? How do we honor their families? By not emphasizing an opportunity to get people to purchase somebody's product because they're coming here to pay respects. And I think being able to keep marketing through the billboards away from just glaring down on people while they're trying to find community, find liberation, engage in public grief, navigate a pilgrimage and journey on their own road to what racial justice looks like in their community, and contribute their protest. To be able to do that without the glare of capitalism is essential. It's essential.
we're really grateful because we've been doing the billboard since July of 2020, and for 2 of those years, we've had the support from the National Academy of Design Abbey Mural Prize, for which we're indebted to. So thank you all for that. We continue. We still have funding now at least for 6 months, and I'm hoping to hear about another opportunity that might extend it for another 3 months. And we've also applied to another organization for 2 years of funding. But we'll see how that flies.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Janelle.
Absolutely. Thank you.